Well, since taking office in January, the Trump administration has moved to cancel or freeze trillions of dollars in federal funding. The sweeping cuts have already reverberated across Native American communities, which rely heavily on federal funding for infrastructure, healthcare, and education. DW's Shristi Pal gained rare access to the Rocky Boy Indian Reservation in Montana, where the Chippewa Cree Nation are doing what they can to keep their language alive.
This is Montana, home to the Native American Chippewa Cree Nation. Children here are learning Cree. It's the language of their ancestors, and it's dying out.
We are Dixieland.
We haven't produced any fluent speakers in over 50 years, and we only have about 80 fluent Cree speakers left. None of our children speak our language. None of them.
Native Americans say that they have faced centuries of marginalization and discrimination by the United States.
Since they couldn't eliminate us, they planned to assimilate, to put us into the mainstream society. And one of the ways they did that was to eliminate our language, because our language is our identity. That's who we are. The language is the key to everything that we are.
This Cree language program relies on federal funding. It costs $1 million a year to run. But the Trump administration's push to cut government spending is sparking fears that this may not survive.
We have to operate grant to grant, year to year. So there's no guarantee when my funding ends in November that I'll be able to continue what I'm doing.
Last year, the federal government provided over $30 billion to Native tribes. For the tribes, this money is an obligation, mandated by treaties and federal law.
We depend on federal funding just about every program we've got. We're not self-sufficient.
The U.S. is home to over 175 tribal languages. But the Indigenous Language Institute warns that without restoration efforts like this, only 20 will survive by 2050. Many fear that President Trump making English the country's only official language will further undermine these efforts.
None of the languages are the same here in the state of Montana because every tribe has their own language. That's one of the things that the president is trying to take away by his executive order.
Trump's decree has made the Reservation Student Council even more determined to protect their language for future generations.
We still learn it and we still fight for it. And we have a language revitalization program that does need funding. And I think as long as we can keep fighting for that, he can say whatever language he wants to be the main one for America, but we have our own. And we're going to keep that.
In the classroom, they're doing what they can to keep their language alive.
The prayer is in our lifetime to hear one of our own babies speak our language as their first language.
We'll speak now to DW reporter Shristi Pal, who, of course, filed that report. She joins us from Washington. Shristi, how and why are these tribal nations dependent on federal funding?
Native Americans continue to be one of the most marginalized communities in the United States. And as you saw in the report, they have been forced to live in very secluded reservations for over 2 centuries by the federal government, which means that they don't have access to a lot of private capital or economic opportunities. So when it comes to healthcare, education, or any other essential services, they rely on federal funding. But this is not charity, this is law. The US federal government has signed dozens of treaties with tribal nations and is legally obligated to provide this funding.
Some viewers, as we speak, might be asking, why should the U.S. taxpayer care about these programs where a language revitalization program can cost millions of dollars per year?
I spoke to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Officials there said they asked the tribal nations the same question. And the answer was very simple. There are over 500 federally recognized tribes across the United States. And they all have their distinctive languages and cultures. And up until now, in the past, these languages have been tried to be wiped out by the federal government. And this is an investment by the US taxpayer in the United States history, the historical good, and the cultural diversity of this nation.
Shristi, what will happen if the funding is cut?
These tribes, or all of these sovereign tribal nations, have a yearly grant that they receive from the federal government. So it's not a long-term plan anyways. But even if this plug is pulled by President Trump's government, then they look into charitable organizations, other non-profits, to have little of what they can get. But to raise $1 million for only a language program, and this is one of many other programs, then the chances are, without federal funding, these programs are not going to survive.
DW's Shristi Pal reporting from Washington. Many thanks to you.